Hi, Jane here. Thanks for joining me. I'm a huge fan of empowering you, as are the speakers in our Go Big series. Have you stopped to think recently what you really want in your life? Do you feel like you were meant for more, as I had for so many years? What's the big goal that you want to achieve this coming year, or a fear that you finally want to get over? If you're ready to re-envision your future and launch your big idea, maybe spread your influence or get over a fear finally, then I invite you to join me and some of our speakers. We want to help you empower your mindset, build your vision, and own your dream. Stop needing to be right and let's do this now, together. Go to janeapplegath.com, click on Go Big Sign Up, and I will see you there. Sending you much love and success. Have an incredibly epic day. Hope to see you soon. Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Applegath. Welcome to the Epic Vision Zone, where some of the world's most successful self-made women and men share their multi-million-dollar ideas, their high-performance habits, visionary mindsets, and resources so you can hit the go button on your epic life. Maya Angelou wrote, "Success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it." Today's epic female entrepreneur is Sabine Gedeon, founder and CEO of Gedeon Enterprises, a coaching and consulting company dedicated to elevating, enriching, empowering, and transforming emerging leaders into high performers and effective change makers. Sabine is also a speaker, a podcaster, and best-selling author of Transformed. Her superpower is teaching ambitious individuals how to take center stage in their stories and unleash the leader that lives within them. From climbing the corporate ladder for 15 years to becoming a corporate dropout to start her own business, Sabine knows about taking big leaps, navigating major life changes, and looking within to find the strength, wisdom, and the courage to persevere in unchartered territory. Her journey has led her to become the leader she is today, harnessing her passion to empower others, using her experience as a benchmark. Sabine hopes to help lead millions of others through their unique paths of purpose, impact, prosperity, and legacy. Welcome, Sabine. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much, Jane, for having me and for reading through that bio.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. It's all you, and congrats on all your success so far. And I know your journey has been a roller coaster, which we're going to get into, but one that is proving to be very, very successful. So, speaking of that, give us an idea of your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, great question, and thank you for that. So, to your point, it's been a lot of roller coasters. I liken it to, climbing a mountain. Many times we often see people at their mountaintops, forgetting that there are valleys that are at the bottom of the mountain. So, not to bore you with all of the details, but I would say where this pivotal moment in my journey began around me having this vision of who I wanted to be, who I wanted to become, really started back when I was 25. I had actually hit my rock bottom, and in that space and in that time, I was so severely depressed and suicidal that I had actually made plans to terminate my life. And I call it a moment of desperation or a moment of seeking hope. But I cried out to God, and at that time, my belief was very low, if you will. And I asked two things: one, to show me that He was real, and to show me what my purpose was. And in that moment, I had a supernatural experience. I felt the arms of God wrap himself around me. And in that instant, I knew that one, he was real and that my life mattered. And so as I picked myself up from the floor the next morning, I made the decision that not only was I going to live another day, but I was going to go on the journey of discovering my purpose and living that next layer, if you will, or that next leg of my journey in a much better place than the first couple of decades. So that took me on this pathway of, climbing the corporate ladder. There was this role in particular that I had, identified with as like the epitome of my career, right? Once I got there, I had made it. Made it. And 6 months in, just realizing, probably less than that, this is not for me. So my younger self at some point, who had wanted to be in this role at this level, I had outgrown her and gotten to a place because I had been so focused on aligning with purpose. And it was less about status. It was less about money. It was less about all these other things. I realized once I got there that there was even greater impact that I was created to make. And so I boldly took that leap in 2018 to start my own coaching business and have been doing it since then. It's certainly morphed throughout the course of the last 3.5 years. But, what's never left me is the desire to serve and support leadership. As I was in corporate America, even being in human resources, I always believed and I always said that the leaders were the most underserved as far as their development. The expectation that they just knew everything or that they'd figure stuff out left them in this place of always having to figure things out or, lack of better term, BSing their way through or bullying their way through or just trying to navigate. And so I've always had this yearning to support that particular population and have been able to do it in small organizations and larger organizations. And more recently, probably because of 2020 and what's going on in the market, the call to serve women specifically in leadership or women who are emerging to the awareness that they too are leaders and that they too, have greatness inside of them. That's where I've been led. And that's kind of where I am today, wanting to support women, certainly support all genders. But women right now are my assignment.
So inspiring and powerful. Oh my gosh. I tell you, at a young age, I know your story, and I know that you worked really, really hard to get that position in corporate America. And then when you got there, the reality of that position filling your inner purpose, I guess, just left you empty. And I admire your. It's interesting because you talk about leadership, and I so admire that, and I believe in that as well. But where it starts is leading ourselves, and you took that on by leading yourself and quitting corporate America at the pinnacle of your career, which took a lot of guts. So looking back on that, what, if anything, would you change? Or it may not be that you would have changed anything, but going through that whole corporate experience, is there any advice you might give to some individuals who might be in that space right now?
Yeah, well, prior to leaving and getting to that place where I, had that realization that this wasn't for me, it was actually not this like, oh, this isn't for me and I'm out. It was, oh my gosh, I've worked my entire career extra hard, like taken on everything that I could have to get to this place. And this isn't it. And so because I had identified so much with my career and so much with that part of my life, not seeing the fruit, if you will, that I wanted at that point, left me in a space of confusion, to be quite honest. Because at that point it was, well, God, I don't have a plan B. This was my plan A, and I gave it everything that I had. And so, needless to say, there was a lot of disappointment and almost an identity crisis to an extent. And so my pivot, away from corporate America was less about, oh my gosh, I'm leaving the 9 to 5. It was more of, you know what? I have allowed myself to identify with a role with an institution for so long that now this was my opportunity to discover and uncover who I am really and truly, outside of the title, outside of the role, outside of the career path. Who am I? What are my strengths? When you're in corporate America, right, like you have one area that you're focused on. And so this pathway and this journey to entrepreneurship has been more self-discovery than it has anything else. Yes, I've been able to serve other people, and make an impact in a way that I couldn't or never thought that I could in corporate America, but it's the self-discovery that's been the entire blessing of it. So for those who are in that space where they're considering, making that leap, I'm going to say this, and it contradicts every other coach out there. Don't make that leap because you're chasing money. Don't make that leap because you're trying to chase whatever this highlight reel is that people keep putting out there. Chase it because deep down in your soul, the answers to who you are on the other side, or are part of that particular journey. That's what I discovered for me, and that's certainly where, from a mindset perspective, I would put it out there that just know that once you do make that leap, once you do make that decision, that's when you start that journey of discovery. And that's when you get to, unlock all of the fears, all of the doubt, all of the worry, all of the anxiety, but then also all of the gifts and all of the greatness that may have been laying dormant while you weren't using it in a different capacity.
Yeah, very profound, very profound. Because as I also believe we're here to serve. And what that says when you said don't make that leap for money or for the highlights, or that's the wrong reason. The intention, like you said, has to come from within. And so insightful. That's wisdom at its greatest, for sure. Definitely, Sabine, wisdom. Oh my gosh. So, definition of success. You have laid out a lot of information here already, and it's so insightful. But how do you know when you've achieved success? And I know that can be an ongoing journey because it is a journey, but how do you define achieving
Yeah,
success?
it's a really great question. So, for a while, let's be honest, my definition was very much so wrapped around money and material things. And again, as part of this journey of discovery and going deeper, for me, it takes me back to that night back in 2007, and what I actually asked for. And so today, my definition of success is doing and being the person that God created me to be, and doing the thing that I was actually created to do. And so that also means that it is a journey, right? Like there are moments in time in my career where I've done something, I've accomplished something, and was, for lack of better term, successful in that particular thing. But I do think that now I see success just similar to how I see purpose, that it's not this one stop, like linear experience, that the entire journey is leading you through success. So with that, I also want to add the caveat, and this is something that, I had to have that revelation not too long ago, was that while I was defining success as doing and being the person that God created me to be, I was measuring success by all of those other things. So, clients, revenue, all of those pieces. And so I had to get to a place to go back to what is my definition, and then create, not to say that those metrics were wrong, because those metrics are important from a business standpoint, but to create metrics around how many people did I help today? How many people was I able to serve? What impact did I make? If truly my definition was around me serving others, then my metrics had to also align with me serving others, in addition to all those things, not plus those other things, if that makes sense.
That makes absolute sense. And it comes back to celebrating our wins, is what I felt when you said that, because you're right. Our society is such that we have the definition of success on a monetary level or a title level. But when we serve others, when we inspire others, when we share information, knowledge, and resources, we're also providing success. And we should celebrate those, because, if our bank account isn't ringing to the tune that we'd like right now, that doesn't mean that we're not successful. So that really is a great takeaway for those who are emerging, as you said, into leadership, because we are making a difference every day, and we need to recognize that and celebrate it. So I really appreciate that definition. That you're right, we need to put those in our metrics, and certainly make a note of it and say, yes, you've done good today. It's not necessarily because, wow, I landed that huge account, which is good too, because I agree. Yes, we all need to, be successful so we can spread the good in the monetary way. But absolutely, so much great information there. So insight into legacy. Legacy is another focus of yours. And what kind of a legacy do you hope to leave behind you? And maybe you could just delve into a little bit about what legacy means to you, because I hear that word a lot these days. And sometimes people come to me and go, well, what exactly is legacy? Besides,
Mhm.
obviously, an inheritance, but legacy that you create.
Yeah, that's really great. Another really, really great question. And so I use legacy and purpose kind of as partners. And so for me, purpose is the thing that anchors me. So, as I'm on this journey and as my purpose shifts or new information around my purpose becomes available to me, I leverage that to say, okay, on those days where I don't want to do anything, or I'm feeling down, or I'm not, up to celebrating wins, or don't have wins to celebrate, purpose is the thing that, anchors me to say, remember why you started this, Sabine. Legacy, on the other hand, is the thing that pulls me forward. So when I hit that brick wall, or when I, find myself at this place, maybe in transition, because, there's levels to our growth and our development and even our success. When I see this next mountain, right, that I have to climb, legacy is the thing that pulls me forward. And for me, I've categorized legacy in three buckets. And for whoever else, you can add more, but these are the things that are important to me. The legacy that I'm going to leave for my family and my bloodline. You've read my book, so you know that there have been a llama in my childhood and even throughout generations before me. And so part of legacy for me is being the one to draw the line in the sand, so that the sexual abuse, the verbal abuse, and everything else, the poverty, all of these other things that I had to experience, that it ends with me, and that anyone who comes after me, or children, my children, my children's children, they don't experience that. Also legacy as it relates to financially, right? Putting myself in a position and doing the work that I need to, so that financially, my children will be okay. Financially, my family will be okay. Financially, as a business owner, I am creating something that will far outlast me, that, my children can inherit if they choose to, or sell, or whatever the case may be. So there's a financial legacy. And then there's a community legacy. I think that's the over encompassing way to that I'm explaining it. But the community is really around, what do I leave, like the space that I've been in, the space that I've taken up. Depending on where you live. For me, I'm here in California, Southern California, and there's a huge homeless population. Like it's really an epidemic here. And so I want to be able to do something that far outlasts me, whether it is, creating homes, or creating a leadership institute to help these people get off the street and to be able to, learn different skills. So I'm also looking at the world around me, so to speak. I'm using community for that. What is my legacy in the world around me? Like I don't want to just impact people who come through the doors of my business, but I want to impact the environment, the territory in which, God has placed me in. Otherwise, I just lived there, or I just experienced life there. And I want to make sure that if I'm given a territory, if Southern California, for example, is my territory, then I'm leaving Southern California in a better place than where it was when I got here.
Absolutely. So I heard generation, family, community. Those are
Absolutely.
so powerful. Absolutely. Well, thank you for that information. And that gives everyone food for thought, because it definitely is a personal definition of legacy, but you've also given it a great amount of thought and have purpose behind it. And that's one of probably the engine that keeps you going forward. So now, segueing into that, which is perfect, you have written a best-selling book titled Transformed. And what was the inspiration for that book? You touched a little bit on it in your legacy, but also the importance of your faith and how that has helped you climb out of the dark pit that you were in and propelled you forward.
Yeah. So that book is not necessarily one that I had anticipated on writing. And I feel bad when I tell people that I don't really feel bad, but I'm cautious when I tell people that I wrote it in 10 days, or at least the first draft in 10 days. And reason being, I had actually started writing a different book, and the book was supposed to be focused on, what the journey is like when you leave corporate America, like all of the things that they don't tell you, the mental the mental cleansing that has to happen. And so I had started writing that book, and I got, Holy Spirit said, you need to write the other book. And at the time I was like, I don't have another book in me. And the response I got back was, you need to write your story. And so I started, writing out my story in different areas, in different pieces. And it was really in that process that few things happened, right? Healing took place. And though, I had been on the journey for a while and had healed and had gotten counseling in certain areas, there were a lot of things that were still, hidden beneath the surface. And so I wrote the book. I did a fast. I did a 7-day fast. And during that time, I wrote the book. And it was literally, I would write a chapter, cry, bawl my eyes out, go to sleep, wake up the next day, write another chapter. And so it was, quite frankly, a huge experience. I think in retrospect, I may have taken a little bit more time to write and to process, but I also understood that I needed to get this information out. So released the book at the top of 2020. And again, even as I wrote the book and as I finished, I really didn't have any intentions on releasing it, on publishing it. It was kind of like, okay, this is out. But then I found myself in this space of, fighting the fear. And it wasn't fear that people would find me out, so to speak, because a lot of the things that I shared in the book I had never shared with anyone else. It was more so, will they believe me? And the reason that was the holdback for me is because I had always operated in a space where externally all you saw was, she was winning, she was this, she was that. And even when I was at my lowest and suicidal, no one around me knew the depths of, the pit that I was in, because I knew how to show up and just push through. And so when it came time to release the book, my biggest concern was, will people believe me? But then I recognized that it wasn't about people believing me. Heck, it wasn't even about me. It was the fact that, I had gone through this experience and others needed to hear it. Not that they needed to hear my story, but that in hearing my story or aspects of my story, that could potentially help them or help release them to share their story. And I kid you not, Jane, over the last 2 years, I've had so many people reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, like I experienced that too. And it's been various parts. For some, it was the sexual abuse. For some, it was their relationship with their mother. For some, it was, things that were going on at work. And so I'm amazed by how many people from different walks of life have read that book and have been able to see parts of themselves in it. And at the same time, it's a reminder that, we're all connected. We're all going through something. It doesn't matter where you see someone at today. We've all been in some variation of where, of where the other person is. So it definitely made me more aware to the interconnectedness of us as human beings, and especially, of course, as women in what we face and what we deal with.
Yes, it felt like to me that your book was almost like a cleansing, like
Mm,
it in processing the information, you were able to let go. It was like something that was stuck inside, and by doing that, it you released it, which
yeah.
was great. And then, of course, the connection with others, because you're right, we are so interconnected. And what it does, I think, it helps others know that they're not alone. Because, like you
Yes.
said, you were an example of completely hiding it and being alone and feeling like, no one was there for you. But that was, you said that you were taught to show up, or maybe it was
Mhm.
your inner, your inner power that said, look, you have to show up no matter what. So powerful in many, many different ways. Getting that book, that was wonderful. So, speaking of transformations and whatnot, what would you say in your story was, looking back, what the biggest aha moment was that you might have had, either through writing the book or so far in your journey?
Yeah. So in the book, I reference the caterpillar becoming a butterfly, right? In that process, and oftentimes, we see the caterpillar once it's fully grown. It's beautiful. It's this majestic thing, and we don't even think about the the trauma that it experienced to transform into that. And so, as I was writing the book and doing the research on the caterpillar, I think I had heard it at some point that, like, they go into the cocoon and then all of a sudden they come out at the butterfly. But it's that they go into the cocoon and everything about their identity is completely smattered. It's complete smush, right? Like nothing of their DNA is remains. And that, to me, right, I hearing it and saying it, that sounds painful. And that's the part, and even before that piece, they are, they're 2 weeks into their life, they're bottom feeders, they're eating, they're eating, and they're eating, and something triggers to them to say, hey, it's time to go in, right? I call it the transformation chamber. And what I got from that, and even I saw in myself after that point, was so often when change is happening or when change is about to happen or there's some level of disruption, right? We feel that uneasiness, and the comfortable thing to do is to kind of like stay away from it or reject it or not go into it. Whereas I was writing the book and I was writing all these experiences, I realized that there were so many opportunities for me to make the decision and the choice to go through the transformation chamber. That resulted in, loss of friendships, loss of community, loss of a lot of things, right? But every single time, the call of something greater, the call to be able to, be someone, do something that was greater than what I was doing, propelled me to move forward. And so, one of the biggest things that I take away from it, even today, every time I find myself at this place of transition, it's the, okay, Sabine, you know what's on the other side, right? You know this pressure that you're going to feel is to remove the things that that can't no longer serve you or that can't go with you at the next level. If there are people that I find myself having to distance from, or they are distancing from me, I can now say, okay, you know what? I release you, or thank you for releasing me, because I know that we can't go on the next leg of the journey. So knowing and seeing and having that visual of the butterfly or the caterpillar turning into the butterfly is, to this day, allowing me or helping me release any of the would be tension or would be like clinging on to the old that I normally would have, because I understand that my season is changing, and whatever is on the other side of this is going to help me is going to help propel me and help me soar to whatever next level I'm going to.
Wow. I love that metaphor. And also the fact that you said when you have old friendships that you say, I release you because
Mm-hmm.
I'm changing. That is so intuitive. Oh my gosh. As opposed to saying I'm canceling you out, which sounds very negative and sometimes can be, and it's difficult because I know that, you have your old self which cling to what you knew then and what was familiar, and then you're changing and they want to bring you back to their level, and it's like, no, you know what? I'm releasing you so that I can
Yeah.
fly. Oh, that's beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful, Sabine. So, switching gears a little bit here, client challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges that you find your clients are facing right now?
Yeah. So obviously on the organizational side, the clients are dealing with reentry. They're dealing with disengagement. They're dealing with employees leaving, the great resignation of millions of individuals leaving the organization. Um, and on the other side, right, on the working with individuals, specifically women, they're at that space where they're like, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm at a place where I don't have fight in me really anymore, and in the environments that I used to feel like I had to force myself into or to fit in or to be someone else, I no longer want to do that. I don't have that capacity. And so on both sides, while it may sound like it's one against the other, essentially both pieces or both entities are experiencing the same thing. And so what I've really been focused on are, the women and emerging leaders who are at that place where they're like, okay, last year was rough. This year has been rough. There's been a lot of changes. And, we all went into a transformation chamber last year, and they've come out at this place where, you know what, while I may have been passionate about doing X or whatever this focus is, I'm no longer that person anymore. It takes me back to where I was back in corporate America, where it's just like, I was gung ho to go down this path until I wasn't. And then I didn't know what to do next. And so, what I've been really working on and my leadership philosophy, the way that it is as it stands, is really about getting clear on who you are. What's important to you. Because at the end of the day, leadership is an identity. It's not about your role. It's not about the title. It's not about the company. We're all leaders in some capacity of our lives. And so for me, what I've been focusing with clients are, okay, this external thing no longer fits you. It no longer serves you, or it's created some disruption that, has thrown you off, right? Let's get back to the core of what matters. Who are you? What's important to you? When you strip away the titles, what do you value? When you strip away the roles that you play, whether it's mom, dad, brother, sister, father, all those things, who are you and what's important to you? Because I think that in order for us to be effective as leaders, we have to know who we are. We have to know what our vision is, right? Because we all have a particular vision for ourselves. And we have to be able to communicate that vision in such a way that we bring others in to help us accomplish that. And when we're in a space of either, feeling like we don't fit in, or feeling like there's so much confusion and chaos, or feeling like, we don't have any control, it's hard to find that North Star and to get to that place where, you are confident in this is where I'm headed. So a lot of the work that I've been doing lately is really just helping people get down to that basics of clarity. Let's take the pandemic aside, even though it doesn't want to go anywhere. Let's put the pandemic aside. Let's put the economy aside. Let's put government issues aside. Let's put all of those things aside. Who are you and what are you meant to do in this season of your life? And once we get clarity on that, then that opens the door for that creativity to be like, you know what? I've always wanted to do X, or I've been trying to work, towards this, but have felt, a stumbling or some type of resistance. And we can work through that. One of the things that I also realize with the leaders in this space is that they have faced, I said before that they were the most underserved and underdeveloped in organizations, but they have experienced a huge amount of stress. Like, we're all navigating this, but imagine being someone who is running a company and you're trying to deal with your own emotions and your own anxiety, and then you're trying to, hold everyone else's and make the space comfortable and safe for them. They've experienced a lot of trauma. And so I do believe coming out of this, or what we're experiencing now, is, people are resigning not because they all of a sudden decided that they were lazy and didn't want to like show up to work. It's been a traumatic time. And so I foresee these next couple of years, if not more, a lot of focus on leadership, a lot of focus on helping them, one, get through the trauma, and then teaching them the skills so that they can cope. And then again, leverage that information so that they can teach their employees to cope as well, better. I should say cope better when these challenges and changes come.
Yes, I agree completely. You're right. The leadership on both sides of the coin, whether it's in corporate, and you're right, because I do know individuals who are in that position where there is a lot of stress because people are resigning. People are, they're questioning their corporations, they're questioning themselves. And then on the personal side, I love that. What is your vision for yourself in this season of your life? Because a lot of people now have the time to reflect on, what have I been doing? Because we all identify. I've been in corporate too, and when I was in corporate like you, I identified with my job. I was that
Yeah.
that individual. And when it's gone, it's like, okay, now who am I? What am I supposed to
Yeah.
do? But I love that the way you interpret the vision for yourself in this season of your life, because life changes and we're definitely in unchartered water right now. So insightful, Sabine. I love that. So, business development lessons. What are some key lessons that you've learned in building your business that might help someone who is just starting out in their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. Again, coaches listening to this are probably gonna hate me. But this notion, it goes back to what I said before about, if you're gonna step into this space, do it because you're called, and know and understand that it is a journey of self-discovery. And so this notion and this space that we're in from a marketing perspective that, lures people into entrepreneurship with this promise of like, you're going to make six figures in 6 days and whatnot. And though I understand some people make it, but they're not the rule. And so, one of the things that I would say from a business development standpoint is a couple of things. One, when it comes to identifying, who you're going to serve or what you're going to serve, oftentimes people, for those of us who are entrepreneurial, like, we have ideas all day long. Like, we live in our heads and we live in ideas. One of the things that I learned quickly, the way, is I would get an idea and I would run to implement, and there'd be crickets, or the results that I wanted weren't there. And so really taking a step back and looking at all of the ideas that you have and then testing it. So much money and time and energy and effort can be wasted when we're just doing things and trying to see, what sticks. One of the areas, or one of the things, strategies that I've implemented, and probably too late, but I've implemented, is, when I have been prepared to launch something, whether it was a new program or whatever the case may be, I've done client, I'm sorry, ideal client avatar interviews. And really that allows you to get in front of who would be your ideal client, ask them questions about your product or your service, really determine, is this something that they want? Is this something that they would pay for? And it gives you an opportunity to start to build relationships with individuals who, they may not be ready to purchase from you, but they may know people who might want your product or might want your service. So I would say I would approach business development a lot different in the beginning stages than I did. Like I would approach it how I do now. And now the focus is really on building relationships. Now the focus is really on, instead of me trying to do everything and figure everything out and carry the burden on my back, I'm reaching out to individuals who are smarter than me in other areas or who have other expertise, learning from them, and then creating these mutual beneficial relationships so that they open doors for me or I can open doors for them. This notion that we're taught, especially in corporate America, around, put your head down, do the work, you'll get there. Like it'll happen one day. That's a lie. That's a lie. The power in being able to move forward quicker, faster, with much more momentum is partnering with other people. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to partner with them in your business, but we're partnering right now in doing this podcast. We're partnering in different areas, in different arenas where you're getting exposure, I'm getting exposure, we're building our business. And so if for those of you who are coming into the space, understand that you are going to get further with your relationships than you will, trying to sell everyone that you meet. You will get further than trying to just, do all the things on your own. And you'll certainly get further building relationships, building relationships so that you don't end up creating all these products or all these services that nobody really wants and that you don't get that feedback until it's, way too late.
Yes, absolutely. Building the connection. The connection. It's really about communication and connection. You're absolutely right. Referral business is so important, and it also is so vital. I mean, if like you said, it may not be someone that is interested in what you have to offer, but they may know of someone or some corporation. And it's funny because often we don't think to ask. But when you do, it triggers something and people go, you know what? I think
Mm-hmm.
I have someone. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to remind them because they're not thinking of that. But those are great tips. I love it. And also, like you said, not going to all the trouble and time to build something, putting your all into it just to find out that nobody's interested. Because when it boils down to it, Sabine, as you know, it's not about us. It's about
Yes.
the client. And I know that we all think we've got some, and we do, we have great knowledge and resources and tools to share. But often we get so centered on our capabilities and our tools and knowledge that we forget that it's not about us. It's about what the
Mm-hmm.
client needs. So
Yeah.
great information. And I hope that those are takeaways for all of those listening. Speaking of those that might be here and already either have a successful business or looking to delve into one, mindset is really important. Having
Mm-hmm.
a not necessarily a successful mindset, but a mindset that leads you to prosperity or to generosity and to connection. So, having the right mindset in achieving your goals for success, what are some of the practices and strategies that you've implemented to help you maintain a healthy and positive mindset on your journey?
Yeah, another really great question. So I can't even say I'm a recovering type A. I just am type A, overly ambitious person. And for a very long time, failure scared me.
Mm.
The notion or the thought of failure was just like the end of me. And one of the things that entrepreneurship has told me is that failure is actually a good thing. Failure is not a reflection of me, it's a reflection of the process, right? And so in the beginning, obviously, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. But it was just like, no, this is what's supposed to happen. And so one of the things that I would say is, you have to remain in the place where you are. Uh, Not maybe intentionally looking for failure, but you're okay with failure. And you can separate failure in a process versus failure as you as a person. So that's one, embrace failure. Remain a learner. That's another huge thing. And as a coach, right, we're constantly inundated with information of things to learn. But one of the most valuable pieces is just staying in that place of being a learner. And whether that reflects as having a coach or you taking courses or whatever the case may be, the more you learn and grow, whether regardless of whether you're a coach or consultant, whatever your business is, the more your business will grow as well. We are in essence, our businesses are essence a reflection of us. And so when we stop growing, we stop adding value to our clients and to our customers. And so therefore we will see it in our businesses as well. One of the other things, the community aspect, I can't harp on that enough. Entrepreneurship is lonely. If you've
Yeah.
been doing it more than a month, you know that it is lonely. It was lonely before the pandemic and it's lonely during the pandemic. And so really surrounding yourself with individuals who share that. And someone said it, elevated thinking, right? People who share, I won't say we all share the same mindset because we don't, but some people share that elevated level of thinking that can support you, that can meet you where you are, that can challenge you, that can help you see blind spots. So surrounding yourself, whether that's through a mastermind or your coaching group or other entrepreneurs who are in that same space, keeping yourself focused on that. And then on a deeper, more spiritual level, we have to understand that our call to business is not, again, just about making money or gaining notoriety or gaining fame. It is spiritual call, so much so, like if you think about what we're willing to sacrifice in most cases to build businesses and to help serve other people, that's not driven by external or monetary factors. That's something deep within you. And so being able to, tap into your spiritual well, for courage, for encouragement, for motivation when things aren't working right, being able to understand that, while we call ourselves self-made or whatever the case may be, something's driving that, someone's driving that. And knowing that no matter what space that you're in the journey, that when you feel depleted, when you feel like, oh my gosh, I've given all that I have nothing else, or you don't have answers to what's next, that you have this reservoir that you can tap into to strengthen you, to encourage you, to give you wisdom so that you can continue to move forward.
Yes, absolutely. Having those supporters, and like you said, people who are at your level or greater. I always find that if someone challenges me, it helps me learn. And it's always those individuals who either make me think, or provide me with a resource. It just and sharing some of the roadblocks with those who might have been there, or just talking it out, because I absolutely understand that being a solopreneur, entrepreneur, that type of thing, we're all here to help each other. And some of us can learn from that's why we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, to provide this information for those who might be listening and need some help in certain areas, or just to get inspiration. I love that. And
Yeah.
tapping into your spiritual well. Oh my gosh, Sabine, that is, I grab on words. I love words. I love phrases. And that is really a great one. Tap into your spiritual well and your
Yeah.
reservoir of those who can help you. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Love it. So
Yeah.
you have,
And I also
go ahead.
wanted to, oh, yeah, and I
Go ahead.
wanted to share with that. And that is even so much more critical when you're being elevated to that next level. Because sometimes when you're being elevated to that next level, it can look like failure. It can look like
Yes.
you've done something wrong or like you've come to the end of your rope. And really, at least for me, that's when I'm like, okay, I need to go deep, because this isn't adding up. 1 + 1 is not equaling 2 right now. But also know that, elevation or getting to the next level of success or accomplishment or achievement sometimes may look like failure. It may look like a catastrophe. But that's where you get that extra lift. You get that wisdom that says, actually, that's not what's going on right now. Just hold on a little longer, and keep pushing and keep focusing. And then you can see that light at the end of the tunnel, or, just over whatever cliff is in your way.
Yes, it's the meaning of the word failure. It needs to be gone from our dialogue and our language, because failure has a negative connotation. It's a negative, but failure is fertilizer. Failure is a lesson. It's not negative, but unfortunately we have branded it negative. So you're absolutely right. When you have a different perspective of the word and change it, then it changes everything, right? Because it's not, I didn't fail. I learned something. I learned what not to do. Or, hey, there might be a mistake there, but there's a little bit of fertilizer that I can use for the next go around. It's really, perspective is so important. So I'm really interested in just touching on your podcast, The Journey to Becoming. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so The Journey to Becoming was birthed from the book, Transform, The Journey to Becoming, in which I shared my story. And in the first season of The Journey to Becoming, that's exactly what I did. I shared my story, my journey, some of the ups and downs that had brought me to this place. And then I started hearing from other women who, again, they had a story to tell and they wanted to share their journey. So we're in season 2, just wrapped up season 2. And it's really a combination of, women who have gone through trauma or who have gone through some challenges in their life, and they've learned these tools and these, for lack of a better term, coping mechanisms to overcome. And so, it talks everything from, women getting to the place of complete burnout in their company and walking away and starting a brand new one, and, being just as equally successful, to, one of the first ones, a mom of like 3 kids. She works a sales job. She has a business, but yet she is able to balance her entire life because she keeps things in perspective. Her productivity course is amazing. To, women who talk about, some of the mindsets, like our patterns, like how do we change our patterns? How do we change our behavior? So, most of the women that are on there have been like coaches or consultants, but it's through their valley moments, right? When they got to the top, they decided, wow, okay, I learned a lot of tools along the way, or I've been learning a lot of tools, and they were sharing, and they've shared those tools on there. And so Journey Becoming is really designed to be inspirational, right? You hear about the person's journey and how they overcome, but also walk away with a tool or a strategy or a technique that you can apply in your day-to-day life, because we need tools, techniques, and strategies to just cope with life, period, and certainly as an entrepreneur.
Right. And to continue learning. So it just gets added to our treasure trove of knowledge, basically. Yeah, it's wonderful. So because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, I have one last question for you. If your life were an epic story, what would the title be?
Yes, I'm so glad I get to answer this. So as I thought about this from our last time, I wanted to change it. If my story, or I'm sorry, if the title was, what would my epic title be, right?
If your life were an epic story, what
Life
would the
were
title be?
Yeah. You made it. You made
I
it.
love it. I love it. You
And
made it.
is not our external thing, but going back to where I was back in 2007 and just like seeing no hope. So to be able to go from that bottom to where I am today, and even where I'm headed for moving forward, you made it.
I love it. You made it. It says it all. It really does. And there's a great interpretation there. Wow, that's great. Thank you, Sabine. And I want to thank you once again for being here. And be sure to check out Sabine's book, transformed and her website, and you can find all of her contact information, including the information on her podcast, on her bio here at the Epic Vision Zone. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath, and be sure to check out how you can become an epic entrepreneur at theepicvisionzone.com. This is the Epic Vision Zone, transforming your dream into epic success.